Thank you, Jan Kees. I'm here to lose the last few remaining friends I have in this room, or otherwise known to talk about the WWF Palm Oil Buyer Scorecard, which is one of the tools that WWF uses to transform this market and many other commodity markets to sustainability. I'll very quickly talk about why we scored, the background to it. I'll talk about what we scored, what questions we asked, what we found, and what we have concluded from those findings. The context, the background, is what we've heard about already today and we will hear about repeatedly over the coming days. It's about the fact that some of the growers have started to produce certified sustainable palm oil, more than 5 million tonnes. And actually some of those growers have gone on to make public commitments to at least another 9 million tonnes in the next 5 or 6 years. So on the supply side we see action being taken, but you can see from this graph, I think it's already out of date, it's been updated, but the internet in our hotel is so bad I couldn't download the latest one. But the picture is still around about the 40–50% uptake, and that is a threat. That's a threat to the commitment of growers to go further. It's a threat to a piece of work I have to do next year, which is a review of the principles and criteria and to make them more effective. It's a threat to the ongoing future of RSPO. It's the highest profile threat we have. Which is why we in WWF have used the scorecard as a tool to look at the issues of trust and transparency and focusing on the brands, the retailers, the consumer good manufacturers, to raise awareness about this threat, to raise awareness about the opportunities as well, and to make sure that people know at the consuming end of the market that the RSPO is the way to go. So what have we done? It's a repeat of an exercise we did in 2009, and many of you will have been there when we did that, when we launched that. Then we looked at 59 companies only in Europe. We've expanded that now to 132 companies, 44 of whom are retailers and 88 are consumer good manufacturers. We've also expanded the selection to emerging markets like Australia and Japan, where we're seeing action. And we asked very similar questions to the ones we asked in 2009. We focused on the RSPO as a very easy first way in which companies can show their commitment. So it's membership of the RSPO, but also the commitments that they're taking up, and particularly the commitment on reporting. We then moved on to ask questions specifically about whether they have made a public, clear commitment to only buy certified sustainable palm oil by 2015 or earlier. We also then asked questions around their transparency about, do they disclose the volume of palm oil they use? Do they disclose the volume of CSPO they're using? And then of course we asked the final, and for us the key question, about are they buying certified sustainable palm oil? A very similar set of questions, as I say, to 2009, which has allowed us to make a brief comparison between what's happening now and what happened then. So the good picture is that actually there's a lot more action on sustainability in palm oil than there was in 2009. We've been able to score more companies because more companies are in the field of looking at sustainability. Many more of them are RSPO members than they were in 2009. We have 112 of the 132 who are members who have applied, and that number has probably already changed because people have been actively trying to pursue an improved position. We have 87 of those companies that have made commitments, and that sums up to something like 3.5 million tonnes amongst those companies, which is committed to being 100% CSPO by 2015 or earlier, out of a total of 3.6 million tonnes that we found has been used by those companies. And actually one of the big highlights, improvements on 2009, is then we found, I think it was only 19 companies who were using certified sustainable palm oil, and this time round we found 103. So it's much more common, things are happening, which is very great news for us. But actually, much like 2009, not enough is happening. Not enough. There are some companies using palm oil that we scored that still aren't RSPO members. There are very many who haven't made commitments to certified sustainable palm oil. And there are also several who aren't being transparent and open about the amount of palm oil they use. On average, we found something like 1.5 million tonnes of certified sustainable palm oil currently being used by those 103 companies that are using it. But that still only works out at an average of something like 47% of the palm oil they're currently using. And actually, we only found 37 companies that are using anywhere above 75% that are getting towards these 100% commitments, which aren't that far away. So still, like 2009, we're still not selling enough certified sustainable palm oil, and companies are still not taking enough action. So the scorecard itself, it has identified the people who are doing well amongst the retailers as well as the consumer good manufacturers. We are in WWF in the business of telling people when they're doing well, but we're also in the business of telling other people that they're not doing well. This is going to be launched straight after this session. And I encourage you to get a hold of the copy and download it and have a look at it and make your own mind up about whether companies are doing enough. So what is our mind? What have we decided? Well, one of the first things, which I think chimes with the sorts of things Jonathan was saying earlier, is that we are seeing progress. We're seeing progress in a range of companies, from the biggest companies in the world to the smallest companies, the smallest users of palm oil. And we're seeing progress across those ranges and across the complexity, across the food industry, across the personal care industry, the detergent industry. So everyone can do something, which is why it's disappointing that not everyone is doing enough. And the other thing I think we found is transparency is still not that good. We had a very long and hard job. I've aged quite considerably doing this scorecard, not least of which actually trying to get a consistent set of information and actually being able to compare like with like and find out what is really going on. Part of that is because companies are still not reporting into the RSPO, but of course not all the companies we scored were RSPO members. So a lot more needs to be done on that side. One of the things we found particularly for the retailers is that only 4 out of the 44 retailers are making any sort of commitment to all of the brands, all of the palm oil in all of the products which they sell. If they want to be seen to be acting responsibly, they need to be responsible for their business in its entirety, not just their own brands. Action on their own brands is fine, but they need to do more. And the other thing is, on the manufacturer side, we're finding that almost half of the companies we looked at who are using certified palm oil are still relying on book and claim. And book and claim does have a position in the early days in establishing this market. And in a lot of the world, in a lot of the markets in Asia, in emerging markets, it's still going to have a very important role. But in some markets like the UK, where research last year was showing the availability and the variety of palm oil that's coming from certified sustainable palm oil sources is increasing, we really do believe it's time for the industry to start taking responsibility, to start to trace that. And that's not just something for the end users of palm oil. It's also something which the traders need to do. They need to stop treating this commodity as if it's a completely faceless global commodity that can be traded from anywhere in the world to anywhere else, because end users, the brands exposed to their customers, need to be able to prove what they're doing. But also, the mills and the growers need to control their traceability as well. I think we need to see an end to the lack of control over the fruit that's being bought at mills. This whole issue of not being able to understand what's going on is riddled all the way through the supply chain from start to finish. And I think it's really something that the RSPO is showing there's an alternative to, and something we should push much harder on. So the industry, as I was going to say, at a crossroads, but actually Jonathan said a turning point, and I think that's right. We can progress on this journey forward, we can get to sustainability, or we can get lost, we can go in the wrong direction. But what we can't do is stand still, and what we can't do is go backwards. So we do need to make progress. It's never been easier. The overall conclusion, it's never been easier. The options are there, the certified palm oil is there. It's never been easier for companies to do things, and it's very disappointing that we still have a situation where companies are at the bottom. That needs to change. All the companies using palm oil need to be at the top of our next scorecard. You can find out a lot more when we launch the scorecard now. There's a link here that you can download it yourself. There's also some very useful tools that will be on the website, which consumers will be able to use to make their own informed decisions about their buying choices. And we think that's the greatest thing that RSPO can bring, is clarity about what individual consumers in everyday make about the choices they make in the supermarkets they go to. Okay, thank you very much.